Hello everybody, Andrew Casey at Hypersanity Books. Today we're taking a look at the series Desperate Housewives. I'll be touching on some writing tips from this series, everything from unforgettable characters to life-altering decisions with interesting consequences. There is a lot of things that you can learn within this series, and I think with the writing tips today, I'll be touching on them to be brief, to keep each writing tip under 1 minute. For now, we'll just get into it. Number 1. They're all narcissists. This is the opening argument. Every character is a narcissist. Now, there are different psychology advice that narcissists can come in many different ways, shapes and forms. There are different types of narcissists. So no matter what character we're looking at, every single character has an agenda, and this includes children. Every character is manipulative, no matter who we're looking at. Number 2, for protagonists. I like stories with multiple points of view, and to have characters that are significant as each other, it is good that they are all protagonists, the 4 women. Now, I know they introduced another character later in the series. For now, we're just focusing on keeping things simple. I also like this type of writing style. I did this with Dark Sparrow. There are 3 protagonists within the story, all with a different perspective and a different motive, ultimately for the same thing. Now, with Desperate Housewives, this allows the series to be fresh, and some of the conflicts are different between different characters. Even though there is a lot of drama introduced, there is a lot of drama spread between characters. Number 3, Gabrielle Solis. This is my least favourite character the first time I watched the series. At the moment, my wife and I are just about to finish watching the series for the second time, and with a fresh perspective, there is a lot more that we have learnt since we saw the series 6 years ago, and some interesting insights and details. Now with the Gabrielle character, a lot of her indiscretions catch up with her in life. She makes a lot of decisions with her natural demeanour to be vain, her hang-ups on leaving her profession, the way she argues with her husband constantly, and I think when it was introducing the religious side, when he was trying to be a better person, yes, there is a part where the other lady was being the other woman to manipulate into the relationship to take Carlos, though on the other hand she is technically right, because Gabrielle does do a lot of things to provoke or get Carlos to commit crimes. Number 4, Pilot.
Of course, everything seemed quite normal at first. I made breakfast for my family.
The pilot episode introduces us to the first introduction, which is important to every episode.
That's why it was so astonishing when I decided to go to my hallway closet and retrieve a revolver.
There is usually some sort of agenda hidden within each thing, and a silver lining.
Popping sound. Her curiosity aroused, Mrs. Huber tried to think of a reason for dropping in on me unannounced.
So when you look at certain points within this opening, you work out the points for yourself, and obviously I can't play the full clip, though just see what we can do and interpret for yourself what the silver lining is.
If there was one thing Mrs. Huber was known for, it was her ability to look on the bright side.
Number 5, narration. There are a couple episodes that have narrations by someone else, though mostly with the omniscient third-person perspective. Mary Alice Young is the person to narrate the series, and within the series it centralizes around her death as that starting point, and I think that works well from the pilot episode to other episodes ahead. And the sad thing with this character, out of all the characters within the series, I think the most sanest person, unfortunately, shot her brains out, which also says a lot for the neighbourhood. Number 6, foreshadowing seasons. Every season has something involved where there's a lot of foreshadowing within the series ahead. An example, in Season 2, the Applewhites move into a house after some other neighbours left that were insignificant characters, and for Season 2, there was a lot of foreshadowing within their story within the neighbourhood. Move forward into season 3, it introduces Orson as a bigger character and how he gets married to Bree Vanderkamp. And then there's a lot of foreshadowing for the main story within the series around that character. So think about that with your writing. There might be some 4 protagonists, though when you look at how he's the deuteragonist or seemingly like the antagonist within the series, a lot of foreshadowing can help with your writing, and with some other subplots can help to break up some humour and keep another different pace of story. Number 7. Bree the Perfectionist.
I really lost my head last night. You got a right to...
I like her character. She is my favourite character throughout the series. I also find that she is a person who's putting on the Stanford wife, perfectionist style of wife, though within her characterization she does hold on a lot of internal struggles. With the series, yes, she starts off as Bree Vanderkamp and then becomes Bree Hodge when she marries Orson. With her character, I find my favourite part of the series was her different interactions dealing with George. Now, George the pharmacist, again, he seems like one of the nicest people, but you can only hold certain characters at face value, which brings back to the earlier discussion. All characters are narcissists and have an agenda. So there are different warnings within the series to think about who we want in our life. Number 8, the other woman. Now, with this series, oh my gosh, the other woman trope comes in so many ways that I've never thought of before. And if you're looking for some interesting writing tips, just look at this series all the way through. I might even do a video on it. 10 writing tips about the other woman, because there are so many examples within this series, even from the point where Tom had an ex-person that he had good times with, returned to his job, Lynette finds out, 3 months he never told her. Well, once the other woman found out, she became the other woman. Moving forward, there are other conflicts that come through with the series, and even to the point where Susan Meyer is dating the other person whose wife is in a coma and Mike's in a coma, and they're having a relationship that makes no sense to do something so stupid. Even the person in a coma is a manipulative person who has no dialogue, no movement within the series, and had an affair against her husband, and they could never repair their relationship. Every single person has some sort of agenda, even if they're in a coma. Number 9, pacing. It has a fast pace within the series with the conflicts and drama, and then it has a slower pace while we introspect into the different characterization. And that's one thing that I always appreciate. Characterization is one of my favorite subjects. So with this series, there are a lot of different characters that we dive into from different points of view. And while the drama has a fast pace and there is a lot of different conflicts, each episode does stick to the particular theme that they're talking about. Number 10, strong themes. There can be a strong theme, such as what it is for security, and they will touch on the subject matter in 4 different unique perspectives. Especially with the opening, they open the chapter well with the story for each episode, and it ends with the music playing, and then it shows 4 different perspectives when Mary Alice Young is narrating the story to close the chapter. And then within the theme, there is always a twist leading on to the next episode, which keeps readers engaging if it's a book. So think about how we've talked about theme and with pacing, there is a lot to still learn from this series into your writing. Number 11, Susan Meyer. Susan Meyer frustrates me by being overassertive, being clumsy and a klutz. Sometimes the comedic relief is just painful. A lot of things that she does is deliberately painful, the situations that she gets herself into. Even when it comes to dialogue, physical comedy, and then just some situations where she won't let something go. So there is something with her character that helps the plot to drive along, and then there are other character flaws that make it interesting. Also with her daughter, yes, I also do find that more concerning because she still has lots of different hang-ups with her past relationships, and she's not really thinking of her daughter within the series. She's not setting the best example, and she sees her daughter as a role model person, which in a lot of cases she actually is, there is a lot that doesn't help for the character with what she's doing within the series. But again, it is drama for a reason. Number 12, Edie Britt. Edie Britt has a lot of conquests romantically. Not the best type of person to get involved with. I also say to people, don't just go through thinking you got protection, because you have a child to someone like this, your life is screwed. So you have to be careful. And I'm not saying this against the actress, it's just the characterization. With the character Edie Britt, one of the biggest things that I notice, her nemesis is Susan Meyer. And one thing she does as a common trait is to always point out Susan's flaws to bring her down to the same level that Edie is. So if Susan is involved in a certain relationship, she will let her know that she is just as manipulative as her. Their game keeps going. You burnt my house down, I burnt your house down. Coincidentally, some different circumstances to why that happened, though there are different conflicts that keep the game going. And again, do you really want to live on Wisteria Lane?
Are you kidding? There's no place in Fairview that's more peaceful.
13. Illegitimate children.
I need to talk to you about Lynette. You guys aren't going to be able to live in the same house anymore. You know that, right?
Tom Scalvo finds out that before he got married and had children, he had a one-night stand with someone and she had a child. She did a lot of different threats wanting child support. And this is a common thing that people go through, but I also say, don't put your dick in crazy. And this type of person is absolutely batshit crazy. Every opportunity, she uses the child as a pawn to deny access. She finds every way to have the conflict, not necessarily with Tom, but with Lynette as the other woman, coincidentally. With this other character, she does a lot to put up the tension, but this is the sort of high issues that people do face, and a lot of cases, there are a lot of custody issues that are quite serious. And long story short, she gets shot, and for myself, I found it highly satisfying, but to give further opinion will get myself in trouble. So we'll just leave that there. 14, Lynette Scarvo.
What happened to your ride?
The guy grabbed my boob, so I hit him over the head with his bong and I got out.
Okay, she needs to sometimes stop having so many strong opinions and sort of find a different way to work in with your husband or other people. There is also another part, bloody hell, listen to some certain logic, you say to Tom as well. Though with the character, yeah, she does have a lot of different conflicts, always taking over, always micromanaging, and there's a certain part where she can't separate home from work and vice versa. There is that other part of always being in control of things, and then some situations, like with the pizzeria, yeah, okay, there was a big misunderstanding on the order and got chairs from someone else's place to compromise for the day. It still came to a better resolution, and they did touch on that. So there are different heartwarming moments within the series, though with Lynette, her character irritates me the most. Number 15, Tom Scarvo. I would say in the form of a narcissist, he would come under as a covert narcissist. He has a lot of ways where he hides secrets from his wife instead of being upfront and honest. I also do think some situations he's trying to avoid a bigger argument, though like the previous thing with having an ex at your workplace or a person you were involved with and not telling your wife and they're there for 3 months, yeah, that can create different conflicts in your marriage because you're not upfront and honest. Also being said, yes, sometimes Lynette can overreact and you're trying to avoid a bigger problem, but you're better off to solve the problem earlier and hit it on the head than to make it worse. So some of his covert narcissistic ways, by not being upfront and honest about certain issues, is not necessarily a bad person. He's just sort of caught up trying to be independent, trying to not be under his wife's shadow, and there are some different consequences that come. Number 16, manipulative children.
She lives here, Kayla. With me and the boys and Penny, this is her home.
When you look at the situation when Tom's ex died and then they had custody of the daughter. With the situation, the child was just like the mother, manipulative. And this is a darker tone of story, and within case studies, yes, children are not exempt. The child is absolutely narcissistic, she's manipulative, she's wanting what she wants to have the relationship with her father and to destroy the marriage.
What you did was horrible. And I can't trust you anymore.
So she is purposely following the same path as her mother. Though the hard subject matter that touches on is because of the actions of the daughter and some of the reactions of Lynette by slapping the daughter, it created a different issue where they actually have at risk the custody of all of their children.
Then I'm gonna keep lying to everybody. You don't want that, do you?
So for the father, within finding out the truth with the daughter and getting the evidence of the phone call to the psychiatrist, with this situation, he has no choice but to put his daughter elsewhere to keep his marriage and his family. Despite getting rid of and exiling one child, she had no choice. The same thing happened with Andrew. He did push things a bit too far to the point, what else could Bree do about that situation?
Did you get all that, Dr. Dolan?
Number 18. Intertwined stories. I know this touches back on character perspective, though when you think about it, an incident happens, like a car gets hit and the detective that was in the boot outside the Applegate house was revealed that someone was murdered. Though it shows a fast pace of story and it intertwines different characterization all happening at the same time. This is effective storytelling to keep a fast pace of story, though it also shows different characters involved. So with a murder mystery story, I do think there is a lot to inspire from this series, and intertwining the stories keeps the characterization flowing. So if you are writing a mystery story and trying to find out who's doing what, there is a lot to learn from this series. Number 19, Mike Delfino. Mike Delfino stays as more of the mysterious wild card of the story, or the tritagonist within other people's stories. He's more of the central tritagonist of the series. The way he is integrated with everyone's characters, though he stands back from the spotlight a bit. So when he does come to light, he does have different connections and backstories and hidden past. So throughout the series, I would say he is the central tritagonist of the story, and keeping that type of wild card within the third most important character, following a narrative of each different chapter within the story, I think there is a lot to learn from the Mike Delfino character, keeping that mystery involved. And you also know he is not ever going to be truthful on certain things. There's always going to be lies upon lies within his character and some sort of other mystery, because of his own hidden agenda, especially in the first season when he's introduced with the story of the main central conflict of season 1. Number 20, keeping the conflict going.
Don't tell your brothers. You were always my favorite.
I saw the man in your freezer.
There is a lot of conflict in this show, and because of the different character flaws, there is a lot of conflict that keeps going. One of the worst, I find, is the Gabrielle and Carlos marriage. They are a mismatch. And I don't care what anyone says. They have a lot of things within the series where it shows a lot of different realistic things, where Gabrielle, while they're divorced, she's asking for help and being the damsel and has a different type of issue of someone sending things, but then she's playing into the game as well, and he's sort of sick of it. When you look at the way he's influenced from Gabby, he has a lot of other conflicts that keep the game going. And one of the worst things I found with the series, to a realistic case, the marriage between those two, they should have just got divorced because they were early within a marriage to be married, and there were just constant, endless problems that lead to a lot of bigger issues, and when crimes are committed, they can't be undone. Plus, with Gabrielle also being with a minor, yeah, there were some other things that weren't too good with that part of the show. Number 21, redemption.
Thank you, Susan. Edie, I burned your house down.
One thing I do find with the series is a chance of redemption. In real life, sometimes there are a lot of dramas that can't be explained. And sometimes when it comes to certain characterizations, some people want deeper answers. And I'll just close with this. I am not a psychiatrist, a psychologist. I don't have any legal advice to give, but I have seen some shit in my life. And within this series, well, I saw some interesting shit in this series. So, breaking down into further characterizations, I will say for redemptions, one character I would like to see a better redemption story would have been the Carlos character. I wish in a lot of ways that he broke away from Gabrielle and many times took a different path. When you look at his character into just living in the suburbs and take away some of the rich facade that she expected, he actually is a decent person, and he's probably one of the more eligible bachelors out there if he followed through with the divorce instead of trying to find another way to make it work. And that's also the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing and expecting a different result. Even though he might be doing something different each time to save his marriage, the insanity is trying to make the marriage work. So that's my conclusion for redemption. All characters have a chance of redemption. Though I also do disclose to this other rule, sometimes when you have boundaries you put in place with people and say 3 strikes, sometimes you just need to have your own rules in place to protect yourself. You can't always do the Jesus thing and expect to forgive people and open up a lot of drama in your personal life. Otherwise, if you are looking for that type of drama, you can always find it on Wisteria Lane.
Bree, hi. What can I do for you?
Well, for starters, you can help me prove to the police that we didn't conspire to kill my husband.
Okay.